Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has once again warned against repeated attempts to malign India's image on global platforms. Speaking at an Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav event, Prime Minister said that the attempts to tarnish the country cannot be brushed under the carpet. As mere politics, with this declaration on the Prime Minister has drawn the line for those who pounce at each and every opportunity to play with the image of India both nationally and internationally. His appeal to everyone was that to fight rumors being spread against India is a responsibility that lies with all of us, each and every Indian. Listen in to what the Prime Minister said earlier today.
कि भारत की छवि को धूमिल करने के लिए किस तरह अलग-अलग प्रयास चलते रहे हैं। इसमें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर भी बहुत कुछ चलता रहता है। ऐसी संस्थाएं जिनकी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय क्षेत्र में दुनिया के कई देशों में उपस्थिति है, वो दूसरे देशों के लोगों तक भारत की सही बात को पहुंचाए। भारत के बारे में जो अफवाहें फैलाई जा रही हैं, उनकी सच्चाई वहां के लोगों को बताएं, उन्हें जागरूक करें। ये भी हम सबका कर्तव्य है।
While the Prime Minister's message was covered, he did not actually point out any instances on who he was referring to, what he was targeting at. But the fact of the matter is very clear. There have been several occasions during the farm stir, as well as in the India's face-off with China at Galwan, that fake facts have been put in front of the country and internationally that have weakened India's position and raised questions from our own within the country about what was going on in these areas. The big question tonight really is for those people who have made these fact-free comments and just to criticize the Prime Minister have sometimes compromised the position of the country. Today, they even go ahead and say that the minute the Prime Minister says this, he's trying to put aside dissent and try to create a non-democratic or a dictatorial setup in India. So the question we are asking is, will they take the message of the Prime Minister or still find fault? Because frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it's India that we're talking about. Let me go across to my panel joining me on this debate. And I want to ask you this, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari. Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari, on Galwan itself, so many people have tweeted so many things. In fact, Rahul Gandhi putting out a tweet and stating very clearly there that tricolor looks good in Galwan. Why do we have a Chinese flag? And when it turned out to be a fake video that had been put out by the Chinese. In fact, it was our Jawans and the tricolor was very much there. China had put out videos of what was on their side of the line of actual control. And, we just fell for it. So do you think in the 75th year of India's independence, we should be a little more circumspect, especially in issues where internationally we begin to shame our own country?
Well, internationally, the greatest strength of India is our thought leadership, our liberal democracy, the strength of our institutions, the ranking that the world sees in be it corruption index, hunger index, press freedom index, the women's security index, or any of the indices with respect to governance. The news that goes out when the Haridwar hate assembly happens, that is a point that Prime Minister needs to speak up. As far as India's standing economically is concerned, Pew Research Center is often portrayed Prime Minister as the most popular leader in India. Using World Bank data, has estimated that the number of poor in India has more than doubled to 134 million from 60 million in just a year. News like this is read across the world. So I think the Prime Minister right now has the greatest opportunity to serve the global image of India by ensuring that India is a leading democratic country, a leading economic power, and a country where malnutrition is not an issue.
Dr. Sudhanshu
Joblessness
Trivedi,
is not an issue.
respond to
but
Mr.
he is
Ghanshyam
doing just the
Tiwari.
opposite.
I just want to say one thing. The Prime Minister had said that we should not make any statement which damages the image of India. But they are doing those type of statements which damage the image of themselves. I will just quote one. When Rahul Gandhi has used the word morbid on the issue of COVID, is it not ridiculed the Rahul Gandhi's wisdom itself, that how he is using the word? When Akhilesh Yadav has said BJP ka vaccine nahi lagwaunga, nowhere in the world anybody has said कि ये Democrat का है, कि Republican का है, कि Conservative का है, कि Liberal का है. But he has said, he has made a mockery of himself. And one more thing. अभी बच्चों का वैक्सीन आया है, 2 महीने से लगना शुरू हुआ है. मई के महीने में जाके देखिए, राहुल गांधी, प्रियंका गांधी, केजरीवाल, मनीष सिसोदिया, everybody has said बच्चों का वैक्सीन विदेश भेज दिया. A type of foolish statements when there was no बच्चों का वैक्सीन at all in the month of May 2021. So it means in order of trying to condemn मोदी जी, उसके प्रति आपके मन में घोर ईर्ष्या, द्वेष हो सकता है, कुछ भी हो सकता है, utter contempt, jealousy. But in that you are demeaning the image of the country and making fool of yourself. So at least you don't care about the country we accept, but at least do not make fool of you.
Mr. Waris Pathan, very valid statement that is being made by Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. Political differences in a democracy is most welcome and it should be there. Diversity is the strength of India. But in our political differences, will we begin to point towards things which actually take away India's interest? By saying BJP ka vaccine, has Mr. Akhilesh Yadav brought in vaccination hesitancy in the minds of people? By saying that, there are Chinese flags in Galwan, are we actually demeaning our own forces? These are questions that we should think about before we are trying to just score some political brownie points.
Well, with the greatest respect to my beloved country, India and Bharat, let me tell you, the Prime Minister is not about the Constitution. If I am not convinced by his policies, or if I am not convinced by the way he speaks or with the jumlas, then I have all my right to criticize him, because we live in a democracy and agree to disagree is the main forte of the Democrats. So you cannot take away my rights which is granted to me by the Constitution. Now coming back to why the Prime Minister has failed, well, let me tell you. Just now you spoke about Galwan. What happened to the Prime Minister when he said during the Chinese is entering into our country borders, na koi hamari seema mein ghusaye, na kisi ko ghusne denge. Today, his own member of parliament MP Tapir Gao has tweeted, and he's got several retweets, saying that one boy, Miran Tapan, aged 17 years, is abducted by Chinese PLA from Arunachal Pradesh. He has also mentioned that the Chinese have made a 3 to 4 kilometer large road in the Arunachal Pradesh and they have entered and he's abducted. Our first priority, I think all the panelists who are sitting here and including you, Navika, will be to ensure that this boy returns safely to our country. So where does this come from? And the Prime Minister said nobody is entered into our country. We will see to it that nobody enters. China is not entered. His own MP is saying this. Now what is the answer to that? So that is why we say we have a right to criticize as guaranteed to us by the Constitution of the country. And this is
all right, Dr. Anand Rangathan responding.
I criticize. Do I become anti?
Of course, no. Criticize him. Don't demean the country.
Yeah, Navika.
That is why I said with the greatest respect to my country, India and Bharat.
कहने से नहीं होता, sir.
Navika, can I please have my say? Yeah, thank you. Navika, the irony is that the Prime Minister is absolutely right. That there has been over the last 7 years a concerted effort to malign India and its government. But the irony is that he and his government has done the least to expose this narrative. The Congress is a master at deception, but the BJP is a disaster at perception. You remember straight from 2014-15, the fake church attacks. It took the government a month and a half to come up with the data that as many churches were attacked during the UPA as were during the NDA, and most of them were normal burglary. But for 1.5 months, It was the cries were that there is going to be a civil war. Christians are under attacks. These banner headlines, if you remember. BJP has been late to exposing each and every one of these propagandas. And let me tell you, give you very briefly 3 examples, जो कि अभी घनश्याम जी भी लिए हैं, आपने भी लिए हैं. CAA को ले लीजिए. क्या आपको पता है कि CAA सबसे पहले डिमांड किसने किया था? कांग्रेस का रेजोल्यूशन है 2015 में. They demanded citizenship for Bangladeshi minorities. Bangladeshi minority कौन है? मुस्लिम तो नहीं है ना, हिंदू ही है. नंबर 2, फार्म लॉज किसके मैनिफेस्टो में थे? कांग्रेस के मैनिफेस्टो में थे. मलाइन कौन हुआ? मोदी एंटी फार्मर, मोदी एंटी मुस्लिम. आप हर चीज उठा लीजिए. सेंट्रल विस्टा प्लान कांग्रेस का, बुलेट ट्रेन कांग्रेस का आइडिया, जीएसटी कांग्रेस का. हर चीज कांग्रेस करती है, लेकिन उसको प्रेस अच्छी मिलती है, बाहर के प्रेस, लेकिन मोदी को प्रेस बुरा मिलती है. द ट्रेजेडी इज दैट यू मे हेट मोदी एज फाइन, आई एम ऑल राइट विद इट. You hate Modi, but the problem is hatred for Modi has transmogrified into hatred for India.
And that's
and here
the problem.
I agree with Pathan.
Well, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, I'm completely out of time, but I'm forced to give you 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
एक लाइन जो आनंद रंगनाथन जी ने कहा, जब दिल्ली में चर्चेस पर अटैक हुए, नॉट इवन अ सिंगल डाइड, नॉट इवन अ सिंगल हॉस्पिटलाइज्ड, नॉट इवन अ सिंगल इंजर्ड. बट ओबामा तक का बयान आ गया. कोलंबो के ब्लास्ट में नहीं आया ओबामा का बयान. कोलंबो के ब्लास्ट नहीं आया.
बिल्कुल.
फॉरेन इंस्टीट्यूशंस में भी लोग ऐसे हैं which are not ready for the truth, but they are more governed by the anti-India campaign.
Exactly. And when Trump visited India, there were political parties who wanted to do protests. Who were they shaming? India or just the Prime Minister? It's a question we should think about. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the NewsHour tonight. Good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.